because the success of a mastermind, the difference between one that lasts for a few months and one that can last for years is I was in a mastermind once, and we decided at the holidays that we would have a holiday party and invite our significant others and spouses to the holiday party. And at that holiday party, one spouse went up to another and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about such and such." And it was a major breach of confidentiality within the mastermind. And it literally tore the mastermind apart. Then people started taking sides, and that mastermind literally disbanded a few months after that one breach of confidentiality. That's how important that is.
Welcome to today's episode of Business Growth Lab. I'm so excited to share a topic with you today that I absolutely love, and that's masterminds. I love being part of them. I love to be connected with people. I am a connector, so it's something that I really enjoy. So I've brought in Fairbrother to really dive deep into this topic for you all today. So welcome to the show, Jay. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Samantha. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Why don't you start off by sharing a little bit around what a mastermind is in your words? Because I'm sure anyone that's in business has heard of a mastermind. I think I read about it very first in Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
Napoleon Hill talks about masterminds. But how would you describe a mastermind in your own words?
So I actually want to start with Napoleon Hill's definition, because I think that he coined the term mastermind around the idea that you put one person with a brain in a room and you second person with a brain, and it creates this third invisible, intangible force that he coined the mastermind. And so if you imagine putting 8 to 14 brains in the same room, the size of that invisible, intangible force that's created when you tap into the collective experience, the collective wisdom, and the collective knowledge of everybody in that room. So to me, that's really what the mastermind's about. It's about pulling out the value of other like-minded, similar, peer collaborators, and creating an experience that creates deep human connection, and it creates a space where people can open up and have vulnerable conversations, not just the sort of surface level conversations that we have in most social situations and in courses and, like a Q&A type environment.
Yeah, when you talk about that third brain, it is really interesting that you can take something to a mastermind and say, like, I've got this problem, this is what I'm thinking, and someone else says, oh, well, what about this? And then all of a sudden you start layering on, and the answers that come out, or the concepts that can come out, are something that no one walked into the room with, but just, layering on all these conversations. Magic can happen. It's so exciting.
One of my favorite parts, I've been in thousands of mastermind meetings over the last 25 years. And one of my favorite parts of every mastermind meeting, because it almost happens every single time, is someone will ask a question and I will think to myself, wow, I never even would have thought to ask that question about this or about my problem or about their problem or whatever. And to me, that's where real learning starts to happen. That's the power of peer learning, because you're getting input from, like experts or like people who have similar challenges and fears and frustrations and similar aspirations and goals, but you're getting the viewpoint from a different, people thinking outside of your sandbox and challenging you with questions that you wouldn't have thought of.
Totally. I'm often saying to my clients, you can't read the label from inside the jar. You're so in the weeds in your own business that to have someone to actually reflect back to you what you can't see, that's where the gold happens. And I think that any person that's in business and doesn't have that is majorly on the back foot.
100%. I mean, I believe every person, period, business or otherwise, should be in a peer mastermind at the very least, where you have a group of people who come together with the express purpose of serving each other and helping each other and supporting each other. And this is the important part, without agendas. So the difference between if you think about most people we interact with in life, everyone has an agenda. Our
Hmm.
family members have agendas, our vendors have agendas, our clients have agendas. If you have a boss, they have an agenda. But when you put a group of people together who are all relatively equal and you develop the safety and mutual respect, and people show up and drop the masks and don't worry about how they're going to be judged for whatever they say, that's when you can get into those really deep conversations and deep insights that come from a
Mm,
mastermind.
mm. Can you share a little bit about your journey to, I guess, discovering masterminds and then really embracing them as part of your business model?
Yeah. So I started my first business at 30 years old, and I was pretty successful right out of the gate. Within a couple of years, I grew it to $1 million business, but I got stuck there. I just plateaued at that $1 million range. And I hired coaches and consultants and read all the business books and training programs. And I just couldn't seem to get break beyond that $1 million range. And that's when I joined my first mastermind group. And it was a mastermind for entrepreneurs. And so we joined it just to grow our businesses and become better entrepreneurs. And I vividly remember the first meeting I walked out of 25 years ago and saying to myself, oh my God, I found my tribe. Like
Mm-hmm.
I knew after one meeting, like, oh my God, these people, they were me, they got me, they understood and had the same kinds of issues that I was having. And so, like I said, we joined it for business reasons. But what happened within 5 or 6 months in these meetings, I'm starting to watch grown men break down and cry as they open up and start talking about their messed up marriages and their kid problems and the anxiety and depression that running a business is creating in their
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
lives. And this was not what we signed up for. But for me as an adult, it was really my first real experience with that level of deep human connection. And so being a sort of disconnected lone wolf child growing up, like I was all in. And over the next several years, I started joining every mastermind I could. I started facilitating them, eventually creating them. And over those next several years, my business took off. And I grew the first business to $10 million in annual revenue. And I sold it in 2004. And life was good. You sell an 8-figure business, life gets pretty good pretty quickly. So over the next few years, I traveled extensively. I bought 3 other businesses. I invested in lots of different things. But then in 2008, what's now referred to as the Great Recession, the world financial crisis began. And over the next few years, I lost everything.
Mm.
So I quite literally went from being a multimillionaire living in a mansion to living in my friend's basement, broke, bankrupt, divorced, alone, humiliated, and frankly ashamed.
Mm.
Because for 15 years, I had built this identity as this really successful serial entrepreneur. And there I was sitting in the basement and didn't even own a car.
Mm.
And I wish my story, included me bouncing right back out of that basement and getting back in the game, but that didn't happen.
Yeah,
I
but
lived
real
in,
life, right?
yeah, right. So I lived in the basement literally for 5 months, but figuratively more like 5 years, dealing with that shame and the PTSD and the humiliation. I literally hid in that basement. Obviously, it was a tough time, and honestly, I think the only reason that I made it through that time, that I'm still sitting here today, because I quit almost everything that I was involved in except for one mastermind. And it was that first mastermind that I joined 25 years ago. I stayed in that mastermind, and those people helped me in ways I can't even articulate. It
Mm.
went way beyond a basement to live in and a car I could borrow for several months, and just financially, emotionally, spiritually supported me and got me through that difficult time. So, in a very real sense, for me, masterminds helped me 10x my first business and quite possibly save my life during the most difficult time period I've had in it.
That is such a powerful story because business is a roller coaster. And, in a world of highlight reels, we're often talking about the good things that happen, but there is a lot of bad things that happen. And you talked about shame then, and we keep them hidden and they fester. And having that ability to have a group of people around you to help you through that time, because I've been in a similar situation and you don't bounce back, and people don't talk about how long that mindset, that shame lasts. It can bleed out for years.
100%. There's a residual effect. And, I still am affected by it. I've made a huge amount of progress, obviously. But even when, in the last several years, launching this coaching business that I do now, I still had residual imposter syndrome and, just wasn't approaching it with the same sort of vigor and, lack of fear that you approach
Mm.
entrepreneurship when you're younger and
Mm-hmm.
haven't had that kind of experience, right? So it's been a process for sure for me to come from that shame and, now to shine literally as with what I'm doing currently.
Mm. Again, so powerful, so powerful. Thinking about masterminds from the difference between like a coaching program and a mastermind, can you tell us what the difference is?
Yeah. So in the space that I primarily deal in, which is thought leaders, coaches, consultants, speakers, I would say 75% of what's out there in the market labeled a mastermind is really just group coaching. It's a glorified group coaching program.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference and the distinction is that in most group coaching programs and courses and that kind of thing, it's a one to guru relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You go through a course or group coaching program and you at the end of it have barely met the other people who went through the program with you because it's all about the guru and their teaching and content and training. But in a mastermind run by a thought leader and guru and coach, obviously you're still providing the leadership, you still might be doing some training and coaching and mentoring as part of the whole program. But the difference is you're very intentional about creating relationships with the people in the program to create that third brain that Napoleon Hill talked about. So that, again, most of the things that are labeled masterminds, they'll do hot seats and Q&A, but there's not that intentional relationship building, and they're not being careful and specific about creating the container, because the success of a mastermind, the difference between one that lasts for a few months and one that can last for years, is there's two factors. One is creating the container properly, and the other is inviting the right people into it.
Mm-hmm.
So creating the container is around creating the culture, the protocols, the rules, the expectations of everybody participating in the group. Creating that psychological safety, making sure that people, respect confidentiality, and developing mutual respect for each other. Because that's the other thing that this, transitions into having the right people in the group. To have a mastermind that's going to last for a long time, you can't have any people in the group that the others are thinking, why did you let that person in? They just don't
Yes.
seem to fit.
Yeah.
Because that one non-fit person can alter the group dynamic enough that it may not prevent you getting into the group psychological safety, but it certainly can hold you back.
Mm.
And so making sure that you don't just let anyone who can write the check into a mastermind is a critical piece of it. You want it to be curated, invitation only, and make sure that there's commonality and parity within the people in the group. That makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. Going back to that container, I vividly remember one of my favorite masterminds. It was just a small group, but We used to we'd all jump in. We were on Zoom at the time because we were in different parts of the world. And one of us would always say, okay, cone of silence coming down. And I always had this vision of like this little, almost like from Get Smart, like this little glass like dome coming over the top of us. And you knew whatever happened in there stayed in there.
Yeah.
And that's where I said it before, that's where the magic happens, because as entrepreneurs, we have these experiences that I don't believe that anyone else in the world has. You know, like you said before, when things aren't working in our marriage or in our family life or with family or with finances or whatever it is, it can just impact you as a person so much. So to be able to have that safe space where you can freely talk and know that it is safe is so valuable.
Yeah, the confidentiality. I was in a mastermind once, and it was a local in-person mastermind. And we decided at the holidays that we would have a holiday party and invite our significant others and spouses to the holiday party. And at that holiday party, one spouse went up to another and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about such and such."
Oh, no.
And it was a major breach of confidentiality within the mastermind. And it literally tore the mastermind apart because those two members immediately had an issue. Then people started taking sides. And that mastermind literally disbanded a few months after that one breach of confidentiality.
Wow.
That's how important that is.
Yeah. You mentioned connection, but I just want to put that aside for one little minute and talk about these extra brains coming together in this world where AI is just taking off in such an amazing way. And I can't even fathom how fast it's going to get. I can't understand it. When we're able to put in any question into ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever it is, and get the answer, why would it still be beneficial to join a mastermind?
Yeah, well, you said we want to put that connection issue aside, but I'm going to bring it right back because, so you're absolutely right. What I tell my clients is that every single day, how AI is progressing, the value of content and information and training is going down because already AI can train you on anything in the world that you want for free in minutes. We are in a society, we're actually in a global crisis, according to the World Health Organization, who created an entire commission to address the global crisis of social isolation and loneliness. They started that in 2024. We have become so disconnected as humans, politically, socially, in so many ways, that to me, to survive and thrive as a thought leader, as a coach, as a consultant, if you can combine the expertise and the transformation that you can provide as that thought leader with creating an environment where people really get into that human connection and are able to talk about these things that they don't talk about with anyone else, that's where you can, to me, create real value and, more importantly, transformation for clients, because you're tapping into that human connection piece. And that increases the perceived value and increases the transformation that people get.
For anyone that's listening and wants to actually run a mastermind, where would we even start? Where would someone start?
So I'm a big believer that there's no cookie cutter way to create a mastermind. And there are people out there who teach masterminds who pretty much teach a cookie cutter approach. Like, you get the people in a room, everybody gets a hot seat for 10 minutes, you just go around, and that is the mastermind. To me, when we're running masterminds as thought leaders and coaches, consultants, it's like putting pieces of a puzzle together, because you want to take advantage of whatever your superpower is as a coach or mentor or trainer or teacher. So you want to, take advantage of your biggest strengths in terms of running the program, but more importantly, create the structure of the program to deliver the most result for the clients, right? So that they get the most transformation. So There's lots of different types of masterminds. There are sort of what I call task-oriented masterminds and process-oriented masterminds, and there's industry masterminds and peer masterminds, and there's different ways to structure it. And one of the mistakes that people often think is, yeah, I can just get this group of similar people together and we hang out and everybody gets a hot seat. And that'll work for a while. But if you want a mastermind to last for years, it's important to have a structure because there's safety in structure. That doesn't mean your agenda has to be exactly the same every time, but there has to be a rhythm that you create so that people understand what's going to happen. It's not just like we show up and we waste 20 minutes, sort of chit-chatting and catching up and, having coffee conversation, but that it's structured and facilitated well so that you get into that safe space and get into those deeper issues.
I believe you've got a resource around that.
Yeah, it's a mini ebook, How to Attract and Keep Clients for 3 years, not 3 months. And in it, I explain my fewer, better, longer mastermind model. And the idea is to have more impact and earn more money or earn more revenue with fewer clients, attract a better quality client, the ones who actually show up and do the work and get results, and then keep them longer so that you get out of that roller coaster of doing launches and the client churn. Because if you structure your mastermind properly and run it well, you might get an initial commitment, hopefully a year, but at least 6 months. But at the end of that 6 months or a year, it's not over. That's just renewal time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you structure it in a way that you literally can keep clients for years.
So we'll put the link for that free resource right below. What I want to talk about a little bit is pricing, because I think this trips a lot of people up because it can be peer-led. So how do you, or what's the, I guess, framework that you use for pricing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, there's no, like the easy answer, like price it between X and X. It all has to do with the perceived value that you are going to create and what transformation you're creating by someone participating in the program, like any other program or package that we offer or sell. But if it's positioned as just sort of a kumbaya support group, everybody's going to love each other and, give each other loving support. That's not something that people are typically willing to pay a high ticket premium for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part where you, as the guru, thought leader, coach, mentor, you need to be able to offer something that is the perceived value is very high in terms of your leadership. And then the sort of support part of it and the collaboration and co-creation that comes from the masterminding is like the icing on the cake. So just to general guidelines, and I mean, what I encourage people to do is create a mastermind that's at least $10,000 a year. Some people aren't ready to do that or aren't in a position to start there. There are some masterminds that are, $100,000 a year
Mm-hmm.
that exist out there and that are full and people stay in. So there's no magic number, but the thing that I position to people is that if you have a program that's $1,000 a month with 9 clients, you've added 6 figures in revenue to your
Mm-hmm.
business.
Mm-hmm.
Versus you sell a $1,500 course or coaching package and you need 67 clients
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
reach 6 figures in revenue. So there's lots of ways to do the math and slice and dice that. But the key is in terms of you presenting the mastermind with the perceived value that they're going to get some kind of meaningful transformation.
Do you believe, or is it right that when there is a certain level of person in that mastermind that you can increase the price? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of the value is in hanging out with people who are at the same or higher levels than you might be. Where it's tricky is that if you have, it's an entrepreneur mastermind, for instance, and you've got somebody in there doing $1 million in revenue in the same group as somebody doing $100 million in revenue, that creates disparity.
Mm.
Because even though as entrepreneurs we have the same issues, it's harder to get that mutual respect when there's that kind of disparity within the group. And so it's important that from a perception standpoint, that people think like, oh, the people you brought in here are amazing. Like, I'm going to learn. Yet they immediately get that sense that, oh, I can learn so much from these other people because they're all brilliant. They're all as smart as me. They're all just like me.
Mm-hmm.
So there are what I call an access mastermind. And there are big name thought leaders out there that have like these $100,000 a year masterminds.
Mm-hmm.
And people aren't joining them to those types of masterminds to really to learn from the thought leader who put it together, although they're a big name themselves. They're doing it because they get access to these other top people in their industry, and that's what they're willing to pay for.
Totally. Absolutely. I will pay for proximity every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. With masterminds, a lot of what's talked about isn't necessarily like just how to increase your revenue. So, like you mentioned before, it's working through all sorts of personal things. So it can be really difficult, I feel, to help people understand the ROI that they're actually receiving. How do you, or do you have a way of helping people to understand what that ROI is? Because often it's quite intangible.
Yeah, I love this question. So often I say that if in any individual mastermind meeting, the only takeaway that somebody has at the end of the meeting is, oh my God, I can't believe how much these people are just like me. That is enough right there to sustain a mastermind.
Mm,
The local in-person mastermind that I run now, when we started, we did takeaways at the end, and the first few months, the takeaways were generally like, oh my God, I can't believe how much everybody's just like me. Then we did, and we were together, I think 9 or 10 months, and we did a little weekend retreat together. And at the end of that weekend retreat, I say, okay, let's go around everybody's takeaway. And almost 100% around the room after that weekend retreat is, oh my God, I can't believe how much you are all just like me.
yeah.
And I just laughed and said, you guys don't remember saying that after the first couple of months, and that's still your big takeaway now. But that just illustrates the beauty and the power of being in peers that you feel like you can relate to almost everything going on in their lives. That gives you that safety. So that is a very intangible ROI, but that can be enough. Like often the way I express it is as thought leaders and coaches, if somebody after they've been in your program for 12 months, like maybe you've taught them all the content that you have to deliver, but at the end of that 12 months, they don't want to leave because of the relationships they now have with everyone else.
Mm.
And that to me is also a reason why masterminds are a great business model for coaches and thought leaders. And remember that mastermind I talked about, the first one I joined and the one that got me, I stayed in that mastermind for 17 years.
Wow.
Because for every month I got value from being in that container with those people. And it wasn't the exact same people for all 17 years. We had, a little bit of turnover over all those years, but there was a core group of us that stuck that out for that long.
Mm. There is nothing like walking out and just going, oh my goodness, I felt my tribe. I found my tribe. Like it is such an amazing feeling. When I think about that, it's like you're walking on air for the rest of the day. It's just like, these people get me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other beautiful thing about this as a business model for coaches and consultants is that you get to work with the people you absolutely love to help. If you position your mastermind in the right way, you flip the selling script. You're not chasing after these people. You don't have to convince anyone to join your mastermind. In fact, you position yourself as an exclusive gatekeeper to your inner circle, and you ask someone, why should I let you in? Tell me
Mm,
what value you're going to bring to the group. How much are you willing to contribute? Are you going to show up? So it's a very interesting dynamic where you switch from that feeling of chasing clients to inviting clients
mm,
and inviting the ones that light you up, literally.
mm.
And that's why I love what I do, is like I love my clients that I have allowed into my program, and I never get tired. I mean, it's not work to me. It's just
Mm,
fun because these are people I love to help.
mm. So, for someone that's thinking, I would love to start a mastermind, with everything you've just said, it's about inviting them in and making sure they're the right person. Like, what's the first step? How do you actually get started?
So again, it's figuring out what is the right kind of mastermind that you want to create, and then who are those right fit people. And the other beauty of this is you don't have to build one of those big fancy sales funnels that with the 34 branches that make your head spin.
Uh-huh.
You can do it old school. You can just talk to people, build relationships. Now, obviously, you need to attract enough people to have a what I call a pond of fish that you can draw these people into your mastermind. Those fish in your pond are the people who are attracted to your marketing or overall marketing messaging and talking to your client avatar through that messaging. But if you can get 100 of them, a few hundred of those people who are prospective members of the thing, then it's just a matter of creating some simple events. And it could be a workshop, it can be what I call a pop-up mastermind, which is kind of a for prospects, invited prospects to say, I want you to meet some of the people who are considering coming into the group, and you run a sample mastermind meeting, and then just one-on-one calls. So it can be a very simple process once you figure out what it looks like, how you're going to run it, and who it's for.
Love that. We've talked a lot about what masterminds are and why you'd want to be involved. What's one thing that you want to leave, like really leave listeners with today?
I think that if you are interested in truly creating life-changing transformation for your clients, when you get to work with somebody for 3 months in a program or a short-term coaching package, or even 6 months, obviously you can make improvements in their lives, you can have an impact. But when you get the chance to work with somebody for 12 months, 18 months, 3 years, that's where you can really see those life-changing transformations. And I think for most of us that do the kind of work we do, we're not doing it to amass a big fortune. We're doing it because we love helping people and we
Mm,
love to see those life-changing transformations. So to me, that is the compelling reason why this model, especially in this AI age when people are, spitting out courses that were
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
created entirely in AI.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that this model, I think, is one that everyone should look at.
Mm. I was going to say off the back of that, that I believe that right now, connection is more important than ever in this AI world, with people feeling very alone. We're all in our office just working away, just with a GPT there. It's so important more than ever to actually connect with people and actually be human. I think that's sort of the very end of it.
Yeah, it is all about human connection. And, when you can create that container to allow people to, not be afraid to ask the stupid question and not be afraid to reveal their inner thoughts and not be afraid to talk about the stuff that is embarrassing or shameful, that's where the real magic happens. And that's, to me, why I have been passionate about doing this for 25 years.
Mm. Jay, thanks so much for coming and chatting to us about masterminds today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Samantha. Thanks for having me.